Hey there, guys. Here I'm going to try to show you how I draw faces. I am using Fabriano hot pressed watercolor paper. This is an 11 by 14 and I am drawing with a number 2B pencil. Before I started the outline of the face, I went ahead and drew a line down the center of the paper all the way so that I could try and keep my proportion on left and right sides of the face as equal as I could. And these lines are just a reference point. They are going to be shaded or dark or erased quite frequently because I like to change the angle of the chin and decide later after I draw the lips how I want the chin to be curved at the bottom. Now, after I do this, I kind of measure the distance between the bottom of the chin to where I think I want the eyes to sit. Now, the line that I'm drawing is for the center of the eyes. It is not for the top or the bottom, but for the center of the eyes, and you'll see my little trick. I use a quilt ruler because that way I have the angle will be perfect. I match it up with the edge of the paper, draw a line straight across. I have a lot of these rulers from my quilting days. And here I'm drawing a circle, and I'm marking the center of it. And I'm drawing a circle on the other side, and I'm marking the center. And the distance between these two circles is exactly the same in between. The width in between is the same width of the circles. Whew, hard to figure that out. Now I'm drawing a line vertically down the center of each eye. And as you can see, it looks kind of funny. It looks like it belongs in a science fiction show, but this is going to give you perfectly proportioned eyes. They're going to be directly equal on left and right, top and bottom. And it's just better if when you're learning to draw, you start out this way so that you don't, if you freehand it, sometimes you get it off. One eye looks a little bigger, a little wider, a little lower, a little off. And this is just a great way for learning. Now, I did darken the pupils in the center. And as you see, I'm drawing another circle on the inside. This circle is, estimate about 50%, probably dead center between the center of the circle and the outer line. And here I am starting to shade the lids and the eye. And if you look at an eye, you don't have the full circle of the center of the eye like the pupil. It's not just like bug-eyed staring at you. There's kind of a cutoff at the top or the bottom, mostly the top, because your eyelids, when you close, the top lid comes down. So I kind of like to keep the full curve at the bottom, and then I kind of cut off the top. Now, the outlines of the outer circle for my references is the maximum distance you want to go for each eye, for the outer corner and the inner corner. And I'm just kind of angling it. Now, at this point, I'm doing it on the center line, but when you get better and you start freehanding this a little bit, you're going to find that if you take the outer part of the eyes and kind of raise up that corner, you'll get a different look, more of a sultry look. Or if you kind of draw the line for the top lid a little bit lower, you can get that smoky looking eye, or go for the cat eyes with really pronounced turned up corners. You just play with it. You just get an idea. Now, since I've finished with all my reference and I have a rough idea of the size and the layout for the eyes, I'm going to go ahead and erase my lines and my outer circle. Sorry. I am using a battery-operated eraser. It uses white eraser tips. This one's by Derwent. I've had this for years. I am also using 2B, 4B, and 6B pencils. All my pencils are by different companies. I don't just have one that I like the best. So just find some that are comfortable in your hand or cost-effective. I only use white erasers when I'm working on my drawings, and I always start with the lighter lead, the 2B, and I'll work my way up to the 6B. And it's important that you don't just jump in with one pencil and try to do it. The different pencils give you the different shading and the different look, and it's just so much easier to do it that way because drawing the eyes and the shading and the highlights are all done by different shades of pencils, using your stump to blend everything, and then you use an eraser to get your highlights. And you'll see later on I use this tiny, it looks like a pencil, but it's actually an eraser tip. It has, you can sharpen it in your sharpener just like a pencil. It gets a nice pointed tip, so you can get beautiful little highlights in the smallest space. Like I can put one in between each eyelash if I wanted, and I use it on the skin to give it kind of that detailing of the pores of the skin. Now, after I do the eyes, a lot of times I'll go straight to the mouth. I'm not going to finish my eyes here. I just have an outline, and I'm erasing all the lines. The reason I go do the mouth next and not the nose is because a lot of times when I do the nose before the mouth, I end up having to erase the whole nose anyways because the distance just looks wonky to me. As you can see, when I'm drawing, I draw better on one side than the other. And that's typical, I think, for anybody, depending on if you're right-handed. I think you tend to do your left side a little better than the right. And the way I avoid this is I turn my paper. I will always turn my paper to get the angles to match up. And, you know, again, lots of erasers and lots of blending. Now here I'm just getting a rough outline of the nose. This is not going to be the final nose. This is nothing to do. It's just going to give me my layout. So I see the distance between the nose and the mouth. I have room to put the Cupid's bow, which I put a Cupid's bow on most of my girls. I think it's because I have a little Cupid's bow. I don't know. I just think I think it's fun. It looks cute. And on this one, I decided to do something I never do. And I'm attempting to draw kind of an opened mouth, so you'll see the teeth. And no, she's not going to have the little buck teeth you see here. This is just kind of for me, because I've never done this, to get a reference idea of where the teeth are going to be. I'm hoping I can make them look a little better tucked under her full lip on the bottom. Now, when I do the bottom lip, you'll see that I kind of make each side of the lip meet in the middle, kind of in a rounded indent. And no, that's not permanent. It's just something that I do to kind of get the fullness of the lip and to give the look of it being rounded. But anyhow, right now I'm going to be quiet and you can watch me do this, and I'll come back later. You're going to see a lot of me doing blending, darkening. I'm going to add some eyebrows here in a minute and the bridge of the nose. And if you have questions, make sure you put them down at the bottom and I'll try to answer them the best that I can. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. All right, so now we have some eyebrows, some wonky looking teeth, and I've sort of added some detail to the lips with a few faded lines. Now here I have a darker pencil, and I don't know if this is the 4B or 5B, but I am going in the eyes and giving some shading to give it that curved look. The top of the eyeball here, I like to add the detail of the shading to be curved, darker on each corner. And this is kind of like your eyelashes are shadowing into the eyeball a little bit. And here I'm adding the details of lines in the irises. I feel awkward when I do this. It always ends up looking good at the end, but it always looks kind of weird when I'm doing it. But if you stand back and you look at it, you'll get the idea. Now here I'm just using the stump and lightly blending it, and it looks like she has bloodshot eyes, but it won't. This is just to give the effect of it having color, even though it doesn't. Now I will go back in with my eraser later and I will take out some of the shading. Now here I'm darkening the outline of her eyes to give them more of a pronounced look. Also the darkened edge along the shaded areas give it depth, and you kind of get the idea that there's some eyelids there. And I think it gives it such a pretty look. The eyes will slowly come to life as I keep adding layers to it. And in the corners of the eyes, I just use a lot of shading, and then I'll use an eraser later to remove some of the shading, and that gives that little corner of the cornea there that it gives it that little bump, the white bump that you have in the center. And now on the lids, I'm using my side of my stump just to kind of give some shadow effects. And I'm going to erase most of it, but it's a quick way that I use just to get some shading in there right away. And then I go back in and I erase a lot of it, but it gives the detail and the depth of the eyes. And it also gives me some boundaries for when I'm shading the eyelids. Because you kind of get that shade, so you get the detail of the bridge coming down to the bridge of the nose, you know, the forehead down to the bridge of the nose. And it's really important that you add the little shading details in here, because that gives you the curve. Does she have a wide nose? Does she have a thin nose? You know, what kind of a nose are you going to draw? And this is how I do it. Now I'm going in and I'm erasing, and that's bringing back the whites of the eyes. And I'm using the electric eraser here because I haven't gotten too far into details, but later on I'll use the pencil type eraser that I was talking about. And now she's starting to come to life. You're beginning to see the eyes are beginning to look more realistic. And again, just going in, this is a darker pencil. I think this is a 5B. I can read it from here. And I'm just redefining that line to give them boundaries again. And I don't know, if it's hard to explain what I'm doing. It's more easy for me to just let you watch. As you can see, I'm making the curve of the eyeball there, so I'm defining the corneas in the eyeball and the whites of the eye and the round. Now I can tell right now, looking after I did it, that the left eye was just slightly bigger than the right eye. But don't concern yourself, don't go trying to fix it perfectly, because if you look in the mirror, your eyes are not completely perfect or symmetrical. There's very few people that have perfectly symmetrical eyes. And you can also fix the drawing or the painting later by going in and darkening, give her some thicker lashes on one side and thinner on the other. You can balance it out by using pencils to make it look like she has on eyeliner or with the lashes. So don't overthink it. Now this is that pencil eraser I was telling you about, and I'm adding the highlights in the center of the eye and some on the outside, and then I'll go back in with a pencil. And don't smear the lead or the eraser bunch with your hand, because if I do that, it ends up wiping the lead back into my white areas. But I'm just slowly removing and not overthinking and using the brush to clean it up. And now you can see the corneas are a little bit more pronounced, and I'm defining where the edge of the eyes will be. And I'm going into the nose, and I'm making the nose not look like just a shaded bit. I'm whitening under the nostrils. You have that white area that surrounds your nostrils, and you don't realize all these things until you start drawing it. And just take your time, look at the pencil, look at the picture, hold it up in front of you and squint at it, kind of like you do when you put your Christmas tree together and you have it lit and you put all your decorations on and you stand back, you turn the lights on and you kind of squint at it. And it gives you an idea where you need to add a little bit more and need to take away some, and where you need highlights and the lights to come through, and where you need to add some darkening. So I'm just going to be quiet again and let you watch this. Like I said, if you have questions, let me know. And here it's going to be mostly detail work. I'm going to give more detail to the nostrils and in the lips. When I do my lips, I kind of like to take away most of the lines, and I go in with a pencil and I lightly curve the bottom lip together. You'll see you kind of just, you have to look at the curve of the lines of the lip. So everything is moving away from center up towards the cheekbones. And when you're doing that, it can be confusing. I even get confused. I'm like, which way is the curve supposed to go? And just take your time, look at the balance, look at to make sure that the center of the lip matches the center of the nose, and eventually it'll all start coming to life. So if you have questions, let me know. I'll be quiet and put some music on and let you enjoy the rest of the video. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad you watched it, and I hope this was some help. And it's my goal to show you that this is easy. I couldn't even draw a stick figure, 2 years ago. And I just started out and I drew faces like I learned from Jane Davenport's books. And then eventually I just changed it up into my own style. And I know you guys can do the same. So I'm excited to see what you can do. Take care and have a great day. And again, thanks for watching.